This was me a year ago, convinced that everything was about to change. Really grateful for my time here. It's hard recording this. This is the final video in the Peru series. This footage was filmed almost a year ago. I just spent 2 weeks in the Amazon jungle on a retreat. When I recorded this, I was in that deep post-jungle high, full of energy, full of optimism, convinced that everything was about to change. I first heard about this type of retreat in a book called Tools of Titans. My mission for going to Peru, and more specifically the Amazon, was to find some answers. Honestly, I don't know what answers I was looking for, but I've just always had this feeling that something is missing. It took me 8 months to even start sorting and editing this footage. Honestly, I found it pretty uncomfortable watching it back, not because it was meaningless, because I kind of saw a version of myself that was much more alive. And I also hear myself make a lot of commitments I didn't fully keep. And there are 2 ways that I can look at this expectation versus reality. I could spiral into guilt, procrastinate, double down on the unhealthy habits, stay stuck. To be honest, this is something that I really have done for the last few months. Or I could reframe it properly. Not in a everyone gets a participation trophy kind of way, but in a grounded sort of realistic one. So this video is essentially a review of the commitments a year on, what stuck, what didn't, what I've learned, and the birthing of a more balanced, pragmatic plan going forward. In my first video, I said honesty was a key value for this channel, and in keeping with that, I want to start by going over the commitments I made over my last few days in Peru. I talked about health, sobriety, spending more time sitting with my thoughts. I committed to using meditation as a replacement instead of escaping when things got uncomfortable. I said that I was going to start going to church. At that moment, after the jungle, I felt closer than I ever had to God, and I want to be honest about that. I did explore faith more, I prayed for a bit, and I did notice the benefits. I also learned that I don't believe you need a building or a system to have a relationship with something bigger than yourselves. Now, for a good 3 to 6 months, a lot of these promises were kept, but the problem was my old habits didn't disappear, they just waited. The problem was that the real life came back faster than I expected. Work, comfort, old habits. I also picked up tennis elbow and couldn't train properly from March onwards. Anyway, I'm not trying to make excuses. I do need to hold myself accountable, but not at the detriment of crushing myself further and repeating the cycle, which is something that over the years I've been guilty of. So in that spirit, I think it's important to balance some of these criticisms of myself with some of the wins. Back in March last year, I started developing tendonitis. This was a mixture of the golf, the lifting at the gym, but it actually was a cause of me playing stupid amounts of FIFA a couple of years ago, something I don't do anymore. But anyway, old me would have turned around and gone, do you know what, I'm just not going to go to the gym, but instead, do you know what, I'm only going to train leg. That's something that I did for 6 months. The whole point was, instead of giving up on the gym altogether and just waiting to recover, and basically switched to training legs solely, something that I used to absolutely hate. And now I actually quite enjoy. From November onwards, things slipped, diet, training, structure collapse. I did a lot of planning in these months, but no action. I just wanted to kind of be honest about some of the commitments I made, how they didn't come to fruition, but also balance it off with some of the positive. For a while, I kind of looked at that gap and I thought it kind of meant the whole experience had failed, but that's not true, because despite everything, I kind of built a foundation. I'd become aware of what I needed to do, but I hadn't necessarily done it. But I'd learned how to edit and found a new passion. I'd learned how to publish. And more importantly, I learned how easy it is to mistake awareness for change. Awareness doesn't transform you, action does. So this video isn't about guilt, and it's also not about pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing to build from where I actually am, not where I thought I would be. Peru gave me an experience I'll never forget. It opened my mind to mindfulness and to the feeling of something bigger than me. But it also showed me how naive I can be when I confuse excitement with change. A deep jungle retreat, even one as intense as ayahuasca, it won't fix your life. It doesn't change your habits, and it doesn't carry you forward on its own. It's got to be honest. What it does give you, with time, reflection, is awareness. The retreat feels like the work at the time, because I tell you, it was difficult. I found it very challenging some days. There was a real mixed bag, but the real work starts after, quietly, when no one's watching. So if you're sitting with regret or that gap between who you thought you'd be and where you are now, I challenge you to reframe that. Start smaller than you want to. Build slower than you planned. Stay long enough to see it compound. I'm resetting my goals for 2026 with more structure this time. I may share them, I may not, but I will review them and I will hold myself accountable. Not because I have it figured out, but because avoiding the work is no longer an option. So, if you've made it this far, this journey is only just beginning. Please like and subscribe if you want to see the long, hard work to the summit. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.